We're all clear, but there'll be more. Echo 7, how's the transmission?
I just bypassed security. Transferring to R10 now.
Echo 2, we've got company. Let's make this quick.
Copy, Echo 9. R10, get ready for transmission. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Hoth Transmissions. Today we are going to be discussing 3 episodes of the Bad Batch Season 3. We've got the Harbinger, Identity Crisis, and I think the Point of No Return. So, I know we kind of speculated a little bit on these episodes, so we're going to jump in and tell you how off we were on these things. So, we're going to start with the Harbinger, and I kind of felt like we already knew Asajj Ventress was going to be here.
Yeah.
I just wish she had a bigger presence than she did.
As good as it was to have Ventress back, it was a complete waste of a character. It could have literally been anybody else, and it would have still been fine.
Yeah, easy. They could have had like another bounty hunter show up and be like, okay, well, this is what's happening. But
yeah,
like I said, I love Asajj Ventress. She's one of my favorite characters, but I do agree it served no purpose having her come back other than to give Omega tests.
Yeah, and I mean the tests were weak anyway, and you know there was the bigger question just in the overall episode of how did Ventress survive? Like, answer that one before you try and do other things.
Yeah, the best we got was Hunter saying, "Aren't you worried that the Empire will come after you?" And all she said was, "They can try, but I have a few lives left." So I'm wondering if they're just saying it's like, okay, she got 9 lives, she's like a cat. So that's kind of a hint. Like, yeah, Dooku electrocuted her in the book with lightning, but she survived because it wasn't strong enough or something, or it wasn't her time. But they definitely needed to add a little bit more weight behind that.
Yeah, I mean, as an episode, I found this one to be just really weak compared to what we've had recently.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't. It was basically just down to the fact that, you know, Ventress returned, happy, you know, really happy. We knew it was happening because of the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, it was just executed completely in the wrong way. They could have had Ventress being sort of more Ventressy. You know, because in the episode, you know, she had the sort of moments where she fought the Bad Batch, but it was then, you know, trying the tests with Omega where it was stand on a rock, do this, go up to the top of the mountain, and it's like, really, you could literally do anything else. And also, do you not have the technology to do blood samples? Because a lot of other people do.
That's what I was thinking. My first thought was, okay, oh, she's going to test her for her M count. And I was like, if I go on, just pulled out a little device and got a little bit of Anakin's blood, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's above 9,000. It's over 9,000. Like, and here it's like, no, I'm not going to test your blood because we're going to do some meaningless tasks that aren't really going to test you until you have the proper training anyways. And she failed the first one, cheated on the second one, and Ventress helped her on the third one. So I don't know what Ventress is trying to prove here.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing of, you know, it's like Ventress could have been so much more in this episode. I mean, you know, she did sort of confirm that the M count was for midichlorians, so, you know, you got that one right. So, yeah, he gave her predictions, but it was kind of becoming more and more obvious on that one. But it was just like there was no explanation as to why they all think that Omega would have a high M count because she's a clone. And it was just a really poor episode.
Yeah, like, as much as I really wanted Ventress to have, like, a very cool part, the best we got out of her was her fighting the Bad Batch. Which was actually cool. And then she finally pulls out the lightsaber and she's like, I'm not trying to kill you, but if I have to, I will.
I think that was really the only strong point of the episode. Was that sort of 5-minute fight.
Sadly. And like you said, it really did no purpose to push the plot forward in any way. All it did was, oh yeah, Omega, you're not a Jedi. Okay, cool. And then you got the Bad Batch questioning Asajj saying, okay, you're lying about something. She's like, which part? And you have these clones that are just confused because, like, okay, you're lying about something. She's like, okay, which part? And then she's like, well, just because she has a high M count doesn't make her a Jedi, and you guys aren't going to be able to train her the way she needs to be trained. So it's either let me take her, or you guys are going to fail in your jobs, she's going to get captured and whatnot. And do I hear spinoff? Asajj and Omega?
I mean, luckily Omega didn't go off with Ventress at the end of the episode, so currently I'm not hearing spin-off, I'm just hearing waste of character.
Yeah, honestly.
But I don't think, after seeing that, I don't think that's the last that we've seen of Ventress at all. And I kind of think that she might be part of the cavalry that is meant to be coming.
So you think we'll see her more in the season? You don't think that's her only cameo?
Yeah, if we don't, it would be a disappointment to the character because, you know, she was vital in the Clone Wars. She had, you know, her character had really good arcs in that, and
the Separatist assassin.
Yeah, and to have her sort of in a one episode cameo type thing that doesn't progress the plot, I don't think that was I think that was like the teaser. And I think she'll be back.
And even if she's not in Clone Wars, or the Bad Batch or whatever, I feel this is just their kind of way to say, hey, Asajj is alive, and maybe they might use her for something else later. That was one of my thinkings on it.
I mean, to be honest, you are probably completely correct with that, which annoys me because I hate it when they do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like let's tease the character and, you know, give her this really big reveal in the trailer and have her in a really poor episode and then do nothing with her. But she's going to get her own spin-off. It's like, no, just stick with the one story. Like, you don't need to have a character in another show to do a spin-off. You could just do an Asajj Ventress spin-off by itself. Like, you don't need the random inclusion.
Yeah, no, I totally get that, and it's just like you said, it's just a rough episode, and some people may say it wasn't fan service. Like, she was brought in, like, I didn't feel like she was really fan service, but I also don't think, like we already said, she was pivotal to this story at all.
Yeah, I mean, it could have literally been Rex doing the same, having the same lines and everything.
He'd be better equipped to train her than any of the other clones because he served with Jedi.
Yeah. Yeah, so, you know, you take away Ventress and replace her with Rex. You've not, I mean, there's some parts of the plot that you would have had to change, but at the same time, the majority of it would stay the same. Like, there was no... I think what it is for me is just that it was built up so much that Ventress would be involved. and somehow she survived. And then when we get it, it was just so weak. And yeah, poor episode, honestly.
Yeah. It was really cool to see Asajj kind of use the Force and kind of be more Jedi-like than she's been in previous projects. So it was really cool to kind of see Omega go, oh, well, why should I listen to you? You probably don't even know what you're doing. And Asajj was like, well, all right, hold my beer. Let's go. And she stands at the edge of the boat and is like, okay. And it was really cool to see Asajj Ventress connect with the Force the way she did and call upon the creatures. But to also show that she's not as in control, because she called this random beast, which I think if that didn't happen, the episode would have been shorter.
Bearing in mind, the episode was, 23 minutes?
Yeah, 27-minute runtime, which is longer than the next two episodes, but yeah.
Yeah, I just... There's not much that I can say about this episode. Even after watching it the first time and making notes on it and doing research on it, it was very much a case of like, this is a shorter paragraph for everything that's happened, which means not much has happened.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how I was sitting with it, because I was like, all right, well, it was fun, and all right, when's the next episode? Let's get back to the main story.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like the whole M count thing, that could have been explained by anybody. And to make a whole episode about it, I just seemed like it was kind of a waste.
I mean, it was great to get the clarification of what the M count actually is, but at the same time, again, any other character could have come to that conclusion. It could have just been, again, using Rex as the example here. Rex served with Jedi, and he would have been able to maybe not confirm it, but figure it out at least that's what the M count means by doing a simple blood sample instead of doing these stupid tests that did nothing.
I mean, it was a nice little filler story to kind of just give us that clarification to get us to the next couple episodes, which they released them together. I thought they were going to have more in common with each other, but they both seemed very, I want to say, standalone-ish.
I'm going to partially disagree on that, because the storylines for Emery kind of flowed between the two episodes. Everything else was more standalone-ish, so yes and no on that one.
Okay. And I do have to say we were wrong about what Identity Crisis, or at least the character that was going to be having an identity crisis.
I'm happy to hold my hands up in the air and sort of admit that I actually kind of preferred this identity crisis than the one that I'd thought it would be. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that Crosshair is not evil again, because as good as an arc, a final arc that would be for the character and self-sacrifice type thing, this was better because it was unexpected. Or at least, I didn't think that it would be Emery that would be the person in doubt. Incidentally, though, Emery's voiced by the actress who played the Queen in Revenge of the Sith. So that's a second legacy. Yeah, that's a second legacy character in air quotes, because obviously legacy is a different meaning. But yeah, because we've had young Boba, and now we've got the young Queen revoicing different characters.
Yeah, that's actually really cool. So with her having her identity crisis, we get to see more of her role, and she kind of sees what Nala Se was doing and starting to understand things a little bit deeper. But yeah, with her character, like, she gets to see what Nala Se was doing, and we get to see more of the clone side of her, that she's not just a robot, and she's starting to think. And Hemlock is like, all right, don't get too attached to these guys because they're just subjects that we're just taking samples from. So
Yeah,
don't get attached.
It was great seeing younglings that had survived and had been kidnapped. But again, you know, aside from all of that and the exposition of Emery sort of now being in doubt about what the Empire's doing, again, for me, the episode just felt really weak as a whole. And I know that we had, I mean, you know, it was great seeing Hemlock again, you know, because he's been out of it for a few episodes. But really, it was another one that it was very Bad Batch light, which I was weirdly okay with. But at the same time, it could have been so much better.
I actually found the episode without the Bad Batch I found the episode without the Bad Batch tend to be a lot more entertaining to me. And with this one, I felt like we got a lot of answers in this one because we're wondering what's going on with Crosshair's hand and what's going on with Hemlock's hand. So we see that they're doing testing on they're drawing blood from the hand, opposed to like the shoulder, the arm, or how they normally do it in our society. But interesting that they're going for the hand. And I'm wondering, what does that mean? Is it because when they reach out with the Force, they're using their hand? And is that like a Force, like, concentrated area? So the hand is like more Force sensitive than the rest? I don't know.
Yeah, see, I was thinking of that, and I was trying to come up with an answer, but the Force is also very much mind and emotion based. So the hand, to me, it's like the hand might just be the easiest option where, you know, you're not going to get somebody trying to then grab you. Like if you're going for the upper arm or, you know, that general area, you can easily grab someone to stop it. But when it's your hand, that limits you to what you're doing. But it also made me think that Omega's had these tests as well, the blood drawn, and yet she's not showing any signs of discomfort in her hand. So that's either a plot hole or they're going to touch on that later on.
Or they're taking blood from a different spot. Could be her shoulder, because she's a little bit more cooperative.
Potentially, but then would Hemlock not be the same?
True. So it could be a simple plot hole.
That's it, we're ruining Star Wars now. No,
it's just inconsistency for plot armor on main characters. Yeah. That's all it is. That's all it is.
We have found that quite a lot this season, though, that there's specific points that aren't, you know, that don't make sense, but as long as you gloss over them and don't think about it too much, you can still enjoy the show. And I think that's the thing. And I guess the plot armor of this would be Nala Se was doing the blood taking, so it could have been in any other part of Omega's body. You know, it could have been her arm or shoulder or anywhere to make.
Because she was trashing the results, anyways. So
yeah.
So she could have definitely been doing it differently. So I'm okay with going with that.
Yeah, let's do that. And one other thing that I'm curious about is, has Emery had the tests done? Because she's an older clone. Because it's confirmed. She says that her and Omega are sisters. So
Right.
would she, if she has been tested, would she have a high M count as well, or is it just this one random thing of just Omega?
I don't know. I think that's why they're testing all the clones, like even Crosshair. Maybe Crosshair's force sensitive. Maybe the spinoff is going to be Crosshair and Omega learning to use the force, which I'm really hoping that's not a thing. I really hope.
Yeah.
As much as I love Crosshair, but I like the idea of clones not, at least Django's clones being just normal. As normal as they can be for clones.
Yeah. But that is one of the big issues that I have with this season is they're all meant to be clones of Django. And some are more diluted than others because blood only exists for a certain time. So it's kind of like you cloning from a clone of a clone of a clone.
Right.
But it's like, if you're a clone, you can be altered enough to change gender, which, I've got no issues with that at all. But it's like, the issue I've got is, why does Omega have a high M count? It doesn't make sense. If Django didn't have a high M count, Omega shouldn't. Unless she was altered to have it by another reason. But then why let her go in the first place?
And this becomes my thing is like, why are they testing these clones? Or are they just testing these clones to see if it's even possible to transfer the force? Because I feel like Palpatine would just be cloning himself and doing the tests anyways, but it just sounds like it's very deteriorating, so that's why he's obviously not being the subject of the project. And why he's using all the clones. So maybe Omega's like the first successful clone that they were able to use M count with. Because who knows, maybe when she was created, maybe there's like several other ones and she's the only one that's stuck.
But then, to counter that, why kidnap Force sensitive children?
That's what I was thinking too.
Do you know that those kids have got high M count because they've clearly shown the ability to, use the Force or that kind of thing? So why keep pursuing Omega? Like, at this point, and this is where I have the issue with this episode, is they kidnap the kid, but they're still chasing Omega, and it just does not make sense. Like, you've got now four Force sensitive kids ready and waiting. Like, do whatever tests you want on those. You don't need to be chasing this clone that may or may not have a high M count.
Yeah, I did find that a little odd. Like they already have Force sensitive children, so what's the point of them chasing Omega? Like, yes, before she left, they tested her blood and it was identical, or it was, I want to say, compatible with what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
But if her blood is compatible, that means these kids would be as well.
Yeah. And if it was just for the fact that they wanted to see if a high M count would exist in a clone, they already know that she's still alive, so you don't need to go after her. I'm assuming by this point they've got scans of her anyway, so, and obviously had her blood and, all that stuff. So it was kind of like this big plot hole that makes no sense because of the fact that they've now got these other kids being held captive, and they're pure Force users. They're not clones. They're not, It just, I loved the whole Emery inner struggle thing, but again, that was it for me. Like that's all that was good about the episode.
I do also say Commander Scorch was a good reference. I enjoyed him being referenced in the episode. I'm not sure if you know who Commander Scorch is.
The name does sound familiar.
If you ever played Republic Commando, he's one of the clones.
Yes. Yeah.
So we see that the Republic Commandos ended up becoming part of the Empire.
Which I'm not surprised about.
No, not every clone is going to break Order 66 and go off on their own, but to me, I think they were the original Bad Batch. And I think that's what the Bad Batch were originally created off of. I could be wrong. I'm not exactly sure what the inspiration for the Bad Batch were, but to me, those Republic Commandos are like the elite that the Bad Batch are considered to be.
Yeah. I mean,
I would love a whole show on just the Republic Commandos, honestly.
Yeah, see, that would be a spin-off that I would happily watch. But then, are we also saturating this particular timeline? We've got the first 3 movies, which were great. We've got the Clone Wars show in between 2 and 3. And now we've just got a whole bunch of different things that go between 3 and 4. And I know that really there's quite a span of time between Revenge and A New Hope. But at the same time, it's like you're going to run out of time to actually create a show and fit it in perfectly. But that's just another sort of timeline rant from me. We did, however.
No, that's fine. That's why I'm happy for the Acolyte, because it's a new timeline that we aren't familiar with. So they're starting to move past this Skywalker saga and move beyond it. Even though we got the Rey movie coming out, you can kind of consider that Skywalker saga just because she took the last name.
Well, I mean, just quickly touching on that one, that's why I'm not going to say I enjoyed the sequel trilogy, because some of it was so weirdly conceived that it shouldn't make sense even for Star Wars. But it moved past the Empire as what it was with Palpatine to a degree, apart from Rise of Skywalker and all the issues that had. But it was the following timeline, which the following years, which it worked. Whereas what I would like to see is something set between like A New Hope and Empire, or between Empire and Revenge of the Sith. Not Revenge of the Sith, Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi, I gotcha.
Yeah.
That's where we need Shadows of the Empire to be a thing.
Yeah, because I also want to see the whole idea of creating the second Death Star. Like, was that a plan before the first one was even destroyed, or where in the timeline does that fit in? Where they're like, let's make a bigger one. Because when we see it in Return of the Jedi, it's still under construction, but a lot of it is built. And that's where I think if we're going to keep getting these infill pieces, that's where it should be targeted next.
I kind of feel like once the first Death Star was built, that they were already planning to build another one. And I think they didn't anticipate the first one being blown up, so they weren't ready for the second one. Because I was wondering if they're going to place like all those throughout the entire galaxy in-depth fear.
Well, there was the Now Legends storyline where Palpatine was kind of creating these, or was going to create a load of Death Stars to basically, I can never remember how to pronounce it, but the whole war thing where the species from outside the galaxy appeared, and Palpatine had foresaw that, and
Oh,
that's
the
why
Yuuzhan Vong.
that's the one. Yeah, and I mean, even that I would like to see.
That would be really cool if they pulled that into the canon. Although I do know a lot of people didn't really care for that species. But, I mean, they could easily change out the Yuuzhan Vong and bring in the Chiss. Because I remember reading in the comic, Thrawn originally came to the galaxy basically to scout it out, learn about the Empire, learn about how they work, to basically plan an invasion so they can come in and overthrow them. And so when they're doing that in the comics, I was kind of expecting them to kind of delve into that a little bit more. So it would be very cool to see something that's not in this main timeline. And that's kind of why I'm like excited for the movie about the First Jedi. I'm excited about the Acolyte. I'm excited about a couple of the other projects that are kind of jumping a little bit away from these stories. So we're not dealing with just the Clone Wars and jumping around the Bad Batch and different clones that came out of it.
Yeah. I mean, getting sort of back into the Bad Batch, this episode. Obviously, it ties in with Rise of Skywalker, with the whole, as this whole season does, with the trying to clone Palpatine, essentially, Project Necromancer. But to me, it just feels like they're throwing that in because they kind of needed to at this point to make it make more sense, to make Mandalorian make more sense. But
yeah,
it's like it's becoming, as this season's progressing, it started off really well, and it changed my mind and opinion on the Bad Batch as a whole, including Omega, which again never thought I'd say, but I liked her initially, and I still do. She's not as irritating in this season, but at the same time, it's like
kind of
the
fumbling.
the episodes now are getting weaker and weaker. The previous one with Ventress, great, she was there, but why? This one had Cad Bane in it.
Yeah, I did want to talk a little bit about Cad Bane, because it's very interesting on his character. I'll let you finish your thought, and we can jump in on that.
The only other addition that we had was Tarkin.
Yeah.
And how he wanted to try and take over whatever the project was without him knowing what the project was. But again, it was like,
that's so Tarkin.
You're throwing in the Tarkin name and the character for the sake of it. It could literally be any other Grand Moff at this point. Create a new one.
A new character.
And it would still be equally as good. Just because it's Tarkin doesn't mean that, he needs to be that heavily involved. We know what's going to happen to him. It didn't make sense for him to be the one that's trying to take it over.
It was very interesting on his addition, though, because I figured this would be a project that he would be involved in, or at least know about. So I found it very interesting that he didn't know anything about it, and he's trying to get into it because he's like, okay, you're taking all these funds, why? He's like, oh, what help do you need? I can help you. And then he's going to kind of do what he did with the Death Star and take over. But Hemlock seemed very secretive in a different way than just hiding that information from him. I'm almost curious if Hemlock has his own agenda outside of Palpatine's. I wonder if he's got like a Gideon mindset going on here. And maybe that's why he's doing tests on his hand.
I mean, it
Not sure if you thought about that.
me. Yeah, I did, because when Hemlock was summoned, he was in that chamber, and it looked like there were sort of cloning vats around him, and it kind of made me think: is there something else going on here? But I don't know. I'm just not. I'm not sure, and I think, on the Tarkin front, it could have been somebody that was maybe not fully aware of what the project was, but a Grand Moff that knew of something happening on Tantis, and it could have been explained better that you've requested more funds for this project. Why? And when Hemlock would then explain what it is, it could be, oh, yeah, the Emperor knows about that. Carry on. Transfer whatever you need. And I think you are right, though, about Hemlock himself. I think he might have a different agenda, which I'm hoping that isn't the case, because that would, again, be very similar to what we've already seen, more times than I can count now in Star Wars, where you get double-crossed.
Yeah. Because you kind of expect the Imperial soldiers and officers to kind of all be in the same mindset, not looking against the Empire for their own agenda. It made sense with Gideon because the Empire was already fallen, and there's really no one to be loyal to. But here, double-crossing the Emperor, not going to be good for you, bro. So I'm kind of hoping it's just him being secretive from Tarkin just because Tarkin doesn't know about it. But Tarkin's been there since the beginning of the Empire. I still don't understand why he doesn't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's the next thing, is how many people know about this project. And like I say, Tarkin, he's one of the originals. He's an OG. And yet, if he doesn't know what's going on, is he trying to be nosy for the sake of it? Or is he just being a glorified accountant? Because that's the other impression that I got, was that he's kind of, at the moment, stuck behind a desk doing the budgets. I mean, like, oh yeah, they've requested more. I need to find out why.
Yeah.
I don't know, the amount of troopers on Tantis and everyone that's involved, it does make me think how many actually know what the main plan is, which then leads me to think, well, why are they not asking questions? I mean, the whole good soldier follows orders thing can come into play a bit, but at the same time, it's like, you've got to be realistic with how it's done.
Yeah, just a little bit. And yeah, I don't know. I see your point on this being kind of a weak episode. I did really enjoy Emery's arc here, but now that I look at it, like the overall thing just seems kind of very off. Because even Cad Bane, I noticed there was a little bit of a plot hole with his character, based off of the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah,
because he's coming into town against Boba Fett to basically take him down because he worked with the Empire, blah, blah, blah. And Cad Bane actually ridicules Boba for doing that. But here, Cad Bane's actually helping the Empire, kind of going against what he said in Book of Boba.
Yeah.
And that's where I saw the inconsistency with him.
I mean, the only thing I can think of with that is if Cad Bane wasn't aware of where these kids would be ending up fully, because if I remember it, the episode, he never actually dropped the kids off, or the kid off. Like, you don't see him on Tantus. I don't think, I could be wrong with that. I could have just completely blanked it out.
I remember. No, I don't think so, because I think Emery and Commander Scorch went up to his ship or something to collect this kid. Because Emery was basically saying, where'd this kid come from? And Cad Bane's like, be careful. He's like, your questions are giving away too much about you.
Yes, that's right. I must have just like skipped on that part, but it's yeah. I think this late in the game of Bad Batch, having these plot holes appear now, it's kind of like they're trying to force, no pun intended, too many things into the episodes without having a coherent plan.
Yeah.
And, throwing in Cad Bane, it could have, again, been any other bounty hunter. Could have been Dengar, for all I know. And it wouldn't have made a difference. It was just, here's another legacy character. We're going to throw him in for the sake of 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Was good having Seth Green back in it.
Yeah, I always love that little droid.
And, for those that maybe aren't aware, Seth Green is one of the main voices in Family Guy.
Chris Griffin.
Yes, he is.
And he was a lead of Robot Chicken.
Yep. Yeah, which is still one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. But I enjoy watching it. Both of which have
just a bit
parodies. But yeah, so it was great having him back in it again. But again, for the sake of 5 minutes of screen time, it could have been anyone else. Like, there are plenty of other bounty hunters out there. It did not need to be Cad Bane, and it didn't need to contradict what we'd already known.
I think Cad Bane was just in there just because that was Dave Filoni's character.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a tie to George Lucas, because George Lucas wanted a cowboy-style bounty hunter. And so that could just be a nod to George.
It could be, but at the same time...
I still agree with you.
Yeah, it's got to go back to, if a character is saying one thing in one show, you can't have them contradicting that in such a big way.
The only thing I could think of is still the early days of the Empire, and maybe he doesn't know how bad the Empire is, and maybe that's something that he learns later on. While Boba Fett still sticks with the Empire, like chasing Han Solo and Empire, shortly before the end of the Empire era. Maybe Cad Bane stopped earlier.
You see, I'm as much as I want to sort of agree with that assessment. Boba was basically more working for Jabba the Hutt, trying to get Solo.
Oh yeah, that's true. And
that's where that's where I've got issue with this plot hole, is that Boba Fett, while was being used by the Empire to draw out Luke, he didn't. He was there to do a job and get Han Solo.
Because he was already on Han Solo's trail.
Yeah. So
I didn't think about that. It's a good way to look at it.
For Cad Bane to be, you worked for the Empire, and then he actually is working for the Empire, just it doesn't make sense to me.
No, that actually makes a lot of sense. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, so very interesting episode on bringing certain characters in where they don't need to. And
it's just how, it seems that that's how the last episode went and how this one went. Yes, it's like, stop bringing in these characters for the sake of it.
yeah, even the Dark Clone Assassin, like, I feel they're just bringing, like, he should have been dead already.
I've got a theory about who that could be. Because obviously, we now know that there's more than one. And remember a certain clone that we never saw a body of?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I'm thinking now it's more of a heavily brainwashed. Sorry, I didn't let you know. That was really awkward. I'll start again. So I'm thinking it's a heavily brainwashed former Bad Batch member, and because it's just weird how obviously all the clones are voiced by the same actor, but this one had the same sort of hints and sort of cadences, and it made me think that could it be just could it be Tech? Because again, we never saw the body, and
Okay.
and it would make, I don't know whether he, if it is him, he could be sort of playing more of a double agent, because he was very hesitant to do any sort of damage to Omega. He could have shot her on sight, because that's what other Shadow clones would be doing. But he hesitated, and so I'm kind of thinking.
Well, he knows to bring her in alive, though.
So did the other ones. That didn't stop them. So I'm thinking more,
That is true.
Could it be Tech, and he survived, but he's heavily brainwashed? But it kind of felt a bit like the Winter Soldier from the Marvel movies, where
Okay.
you've got that the heavily brainwashed character, but there's certain things that kind of make him stop and be hesitant about what he's doing, because he's either heard something or seen another character, and it kind of felt very similar to that.
Okay, I can see that. So they basically just switched Crosshair for Tech.
Yeah, and just because one clone or one of the Bad Batch failed in the sort of brainwashing scheme doesn't mean that another one wouldn't. And if that other one had sort of amnesia or something because of nearly falling to your death, I can see that happening more. And I was kind of hoping for that reveal, to be honest, during the entire episode, where, and it might happen still, you can almost imagine Hunter fighting this Shadow clone and knocking the helmet off, and it being Tech.
I could definitely see that happening, because a lot of different things happen in that the third episode. Because I almost expected them to face off a little bit, but that trooper mainly stays in the shadows, just kind of more like a rogue or an assassin style, rather than an up close and personal. Because Tech is gone, and this could be Tech right here, but it's crazy, because they're so close to losing these characters, and you think you're going to lose one or two of them, and then they recover. Like, Hunter could have blown up on the ship, but he falls in the water. Okay, survives. Wrecker, he's next to the ships. He could have easily been blown up, but plot armor allowed him to see the detonators and jump away just to get knocked out.
And it makes me think just on the Hunter front when he was in the gunship. The Shadow clone shoots the pilot. He could have easily shot Hunter that was holding on. What stopped him? And that's why I'm thinking it's tech, because somewhere is that the friendship bond.
You know, not that you point all these things out, I never noticed them, but
it's weird.
That is very intriguing.
I see these things, and then I kind of create these scenarios where it could actually fit in. Obviously, like when we discussed the episode titles, it was like, oh yeah, Crosshair could be the one that's having the identity crisis, but that was based on what we already know of Crosshair. This is looking at a character and thinking, why did they do it that way? You didn't need to shoot the pilot of that gunship when the guy.
Could have just been as simple as plot armor.
I mean, you're probably right with that, but at the same time, that's some pretty heavy plot armor. When, again, like you've already said, we're so close to the end of the season now, and we know that some of these clones probably aren't making it out alive. Why not add more emotion to these episodes and actually take one or two more of them out? Is it because it's building up to the big reveal of Tech is still alive? Which I know, again, we've seen before with Echo, but in a different way.
Yeah. Very, very interesting thought, because the next episode is titled Juggernaut, so I know we're wrong about these episodes, but I still strongly believe that's going to be about Wrecker and his recovery, or maybe lack of recovery.
Yeah.
Because if we're gonna lose one before the finale, I think Wrecker being the most childlike character of the Bad Batch would be a big hit to the other crew members, especially since they just lost Omega.
And I mean, because Wrecker's he's in a bad shape anyway, which I'm not really sure how that really would have worked, because it looked like he was close to the explosion of the Marauder, but at the same time he managed to avoid it, and you don't see him with any sort of burn marks or anything.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, what is going on with that? Is he as a clone failing? And could the next episode be his final hurrah?
Yeah, because this one's called Point of No Return, so maybe I know Omega leaves and they don't get the tracker on them, on the ship, so they can't follow her. Maybe the point of no return basically means there's no point of return for a Wrecker.
Well, on the tracker front, to digress a bit, I think Omega's hiding a second one, and I'm thinking it might be more related to Ventress, because yes, when they did the scan and she was revealed to have one in her pocket, they
didn't scan for a second one.
Yeah, and when she takes off her hat or helmet, whatever, she's kind of sat there slightly more smiling and all calm, which means that she knows that something's coming, and it felt like she would have a second tracker on her for this particular reason.
Or maybe she didn't think Crosshair was going to miss, because he never does.
I mean, maybe, but at the same time, she's also got to consider that they've got no ship, and no way off the planet at the moment. So even still, I'm, if it was me, I've just given myself up for the greater good to stop other people getting hurt. But I'd still be scared because, I don't know what's going to happen. And there was this whole plan of having a tracker. But Omega's not a dumb kid anymore. She should sort of think that something could have gone wrong because, past experience. So I don't know, I think she's hiding something in her helmet because, really speaking, this season she's not been seen wearing that very often. So why now?
That is a very interesting question because there are former episodes, and we've seen previously they've been having a hard time finding Tantus. And so if they send Omega off and they can't find her, it's going to be kind of a plot advancing thing for them to be conveniently all of a sudden finding Tantus without a tracker.
Yeah, and that's why I'm thinking Ventress is going to come back. Because there's...
And she'll sit there and go, I told you so.
Well, yeah, but she could be like, I gave Omega this smaller tracker that was harder to find. And with obviously only being scanned once, if it was me, if I was the clone trooper doing that at that time, or the stormtrooper, however, whichever one you want to use to be correct, I would be scanning more than once. To me, it could even be Rex. Rex could have given her a secondary tracker. And that might be what the cavalry is. I think at this point, it will be too much of an open-ended question as to how did they miraculously get off the planet and find Tantus without these answers of, did you have a backup tracker on her anyway?
Yeah, that is true. Because Crosshair did seem very distraught when he missed his shot. And so that could just be like for us as a viewer to see, for us to stress for the character.
Yeah.
So they'd like to do that too.
It was just that ending where Omega doesn't look... she's just been captured, essentially. But she doesn't look distressed at all. So either she knows that there's a second tracker, or... and I'm hoping it's not the case, like you say, she might just be thinking that Crosshair didn't miss. But I think she would have probably accounted for something happening.
Yeah, very interesting.
But 100% saying, currently, that the Shadow clone is Tech.
And which also brings up something that Omega did in this episode that kind of maybe foreshadows your prediction, because she's leaving a bunch of stuff behind, and one of them is Tech's goggles.
Yeah.
So that could be like just a subtle hint. Just Tech is still alive, and it's this dude right here. But you guys don't know it because we're just putting this little artifact here, and let's see if you guys pick up on it.
Yeah.
Sam did.
Sam did. Thing is, like, if it is Tech, then that would be one heck of a good way to have a final send-off, for all of the Bad Batch, if they're fighting each other, essentially. But at the same time, the whole reveal of one of the clones still being alive has been done before, and by a member that is now on the Bad Batch. So it's kind of... part of me is hoping I'm correct, because we never got the we never got the body reveal in sort of air quotes of Tech. We saw him falling.
Sam and having to see a body to confirm death.
What can I say? What can I say?
Pon's still alive.
I mean, he did get stabbed, though.
No, I know. I'm kidding. There's no body recovered.
And then got blown up because the planet got blown up.
Still no body. Just saying.
Floating around.
Basically, it's pulling a Leia.
Oh God, no. No. But you know, my thought process behind this now being, or potentially being Tech, is we already know that experiments fail on the Bad Batch, because we've known that from Crosshair. He was, put under the same tests as the other Shadow clones, and it failed. So who's to say that Tech couldn't survive a fall of that magnitude? Yeah, he might have lost his memory, which is why I'm saying it's very akin to the Winter Soldier. I mean, in fact, if you sort of do that correlation, the way that Bucky in the Marvel films becomes the Winter Soldier is by falling off a train. This is exactly what happened with Tech. I'm just saying.
I like your thought process. I didn't actually link that together. Very, very interesting. All right. No, I know this is being released probably around August, but know that this is being recorded before the reveal. So if Sam is right, Dave Filoni, we see through your lies. We see, we know your story. We gotcha.
We know it. We know it. We're good though. We're good.
Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little bit.
But, like I say, if it is Tech, because I think he would be the one smart enough to have a backup plan. And if he has been brainwashed, like I say, with the events of this episode, I think it's coming out a little bit more that it could be Tech. And obviously one of the key points is not shooting your brother. You shot the pilot of a clone ship, of a clone gunship.
Yeah.
You could have just shot the guy holding on, and it would have the same. That would be that. Wouldn't even need to do it.
He would have lost a ship and a pilot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how would you explain that one? You lost a ship and a pilot. Why? Oh well.
And Tarkin's worried about Hemlock and his expenditures.
Yeah.
What about a lost ship? Come on.
So,
can't be cheap.
I'm thinking. I am thinking it could very well be Tech. Happy to be wrong, but the way that it played out.
But happy to have theories.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I like those ideas.
Because next we've got Juggernaut, and then Into the Breach, Flash Strike, and the Cavalry have arrived. So at the moment, really, none of these titles are now giving away anything apart from Into the Breach. Yeah, I think that's the one where they're going to, find Tantis somehow.
Mm-hmm. And then the final episode is them getting to Tantis.
Yeah, maybe with more people as well, i.e. Rex, because obviously, he's bound to be back in it. Maybe Ventress as well. Because
I would like to see her again.
Yeah, I just don't want her to be a wasted character in the season. They built it up with that reveal in the trailer. for it to be a bigger character than just one episode.
It's a whole Finn thing with the sequel trilogy. All the trailers showing Finn with a lightsaber for him to be nothing.
Yeah.
I'd hate Ventress to be done the same way. It's like, oh yeah. We know you guys don't want to watch the Bad Batch, but here we go. Let's put Ventress in there, and that'll make everybody watch it. Which would be very poor.
Yes. Yeah.
I would definitely like to see her more. And maybe she dies with the Bad Batch at the end of the season. Who knows? I think she deserves a better death, but hey, you know?
I mean, that would be a good way to end her character, or, her character arc, dying very reminiscent of Lord of the Rings, where it's, never thought I'd die side by side with an elf, how about side by side with a friend? And it's kind of that thing there where it's like, yeah, we tried to kill each other at one point, but, I'm going to do this now for the greater good.
Mm-hmm. Although I wouldn't have been mad if she stayed dead from the book, because I thought her ending her dying to save Quinlan was a good end for her as well.
Yeah.
But hey, lots of things happening. We got 4 more episodes left, so anything can happen.
And I mean, the thing is as well, they're singular episodes. They're not released together, so that'll either be
1 more month.
Yeah, that'll either be for suspense or nothing's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know with other Star Wars shows, with other shows in general, they'll do a big 2-parter final episode, and especially because it is the end of the Bad Batch series, you would have thought having a sort of hour-long finale, or hour and a half, depending on how long the last episode is, having that instead of individual episodes. Again, sort of speculating here, but it could go either way.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Only time will tell. Only time will tell. So yeah, overall, really interesting episodes. Like, very mid compared to what we've gotten the rest of the season, or the previous season, or whatever. But I'm just hoping it just picks up from here, because it seems like this final episode had a lot of action in it, and it's building up to the finale. And so we can either expect another filler episode with them trying to figure things out, and then the final 3 episodes are going to be the exciting ones, or we might be on a ride of a lifetime for these next ones. So I'm very curious of what is going to happen with Omega. I feel like she's going to be a little bit more locked up in the next few episodes, so we'll see where that goes. But guys, thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode of The Bad Batch, so stay tuned. And just remember, before you guys go, take a look in the description below where we have our link to our Instagram and our Discord. So be sure to follow those and join our fun Star Wars communities there. And check out our cool merch. We got tons of Black Series and other cool stuff on our entertainmentearth.com link. And if you like cool t-shirts, we got t-shirts down below in our Teespring. So give those a look. So until next time, guys, may the Force
be with you.
always.